Today, more than 8 billion humans walk the Earth. Cities rise like steel forests. Satellites whisper through orbit above us, and we carry the entire world in our pockets. In seconds, we speak across oceans, launch machines beyond the clouds, and store millennia of knowledge on glowing screens. But blink twice and rewind 700 centuries, and there were barely 2,000 of us left. Not 2,000 per tribe or continent. Just 2,000 people total, fewer than fit in a subway car, trapped in a climate apocalypse so brutal and endless that it nearly deleted humanity before civilization took its first breath. This was the longest ice age ever recorded. A frozen silence that lasted for tens of thousands of years, where sunlight was a stranger and extinction waited with patient breath. If you're using these to fall asleep, that's literally why I make them. So, subscribe maybe, and tell me where you are and what time. I check comments, and it's always Jakarta at breakfast, Toronto at bedtime, Nairobi somewhere in between. All at once, the same story reaching everywhere. It began not with a sudden freeze, but with a slow unraveling. Around 70,000 years ago, the Earth's climate shifted. The tropical warmth that cradled the early Homo sapiens began to crack. Glaciers, massive and unrelenting, crept southward like silent predators. Rain stopped falling where it once did. Forests withered. The skies turned gray for generations. Scientists call it the marine isotope stage 4, a clinical name for a nightmare that lasted over 50,000 years. But for those alive at the time, there were no names, just hunger, cold, and the whisper of wind over ice. Africa, once lush and green, transformed into vast stretches of sunless desolation. The world didn't end in fire. It ended in frost. The stakes were immediate. Survival wasn't about conquering new lands or mastering fire anymore. It became a matter of heartbeat to heartbeat. Bands of early humans clustered in shrinking pockets of warmth across the African continent. Caves became sanctuaries. Fire, a sacred companion. Each hunt grew more desperate than the last, as prey animals either migrated beyond reach or vanished altogether. Tools chipped from stone grew more precise, not out of innovation, but necessity. Mothers counted days by the pulse of starvation in their children's ribs. Fathers watched the horizon not with hope, but with calculation, always asking, where next? The cold had rewired everything. Even the migration routes that had stretched across generations were no longer familiar. The land itself had changed. Forests turned to sand, rivers to skeletal trickles. And always, the cold pressing in, like time frozen around them. But south, in a narrow strip of habitable terrain along the coast of what is now South Africa, a miracle quietly unfolded. Here, the ocean's currents tempered the air, keeping parts of the shoreline just warm enough to sustain life when the interior turned to dust and snow. It was not paradise, it was jagged cliffs, merciless waves, and lean seasons stretched thin, but it was survivable. And in this sliver of earth, something extraordinary began to take shape. In the grit of daily endurance, the human mind expanded. Shells were pierced to make beads the oldest known jewelry. Tools emerged with handles of sinew and bone, more advanced than anything found before. These weren't just survivors, they were innovators. Here, creativity sparked not in comfort, but in desperation. And this evolution, whispered into being by the cold and dark, would one day echo forward, threading through every civilization that would rise from their bloodline. But survival in this coastal refuge was not guaranteed. Storms would roll in without warning, blackening the sky and churning the sea until it roared like a beast. Shellfish, the lifeblood of their diet, would vanish with the tides. Freshwater became a gamble, sometimes trapped in rock pools, sometimes absent for days. And though the climate here was gentler than the frozen inland, food scarcity remained the constant drumbeat behind every decision. Still, each generation passed on whispers of tactics, how to track seabirds by their cries, where to dig for roots hidden beneath the dry soil, which stones would shatter cleanest for blades that could gut or defend. Elders, their faces carved by hardship, became living libraries. Children grew up learning not from comfort, but from vigilance, and even in their struggles, they sang, not for joy, but as memory, threading knowledge into rhythm so it wouldn't vanish in the dark. It was here, on the edge of extinction, that culture began to crystallize, not in abundance, but in absence. Not because they were thriving, but because the alternative was silence forever. Yet they were not alone upon the earth. Other human species had walked its surface long before this ice age closed its jaws. Neanderthals haunted the cold caves of Europe, Denisovans drifted through Central Asia, and ghost lineages now known only through traces in our DNA left their footprints in forgotten forests. But as the world froze, and the sun became a rare visitor, most of these cousins vanished like smoke into the past. One by one, the great branches of the human family tree were sheared away, iced out by time and entropy. Only one stubborn twig clung to life: Homo sapiens. What made them different? Was it something in the shape of their skulls, in the way they saw patterns in chaos or story in silence? Or was it timing, geography, dumb luck? Perhaps it was their capacity not just to adapt, but to remember, to mourn, to dream. And in that dreaming, to survive long enough for firelight, someday, to become city light. As glaciers surged like sleeping giants and continents shivered beneath blankets of snow and wind, the last hope of humanity crept forward, barefoot and quiet, learning to speak not to survive this ice age, but to outlive it. And then, something changed, not suddenly, but with the soft gravity of a long breath exhaled over centuries. Around 60,000 years ago, as the climate began whispering signs of reprieve, the world stirred from beneath its frosted silence. Glacial pulse slowed, sea levels inched forward, and in coastal shelters where stories had been stitched into songs and survival was ritual, the children of the long winter looked outward. What once was impassable terrain slowly unfurled again into possibility. The instinct to move, to seek, to risk, returned. Small groups began to push past their icy frontiers, braving uncharted paths across what would one day be the Red Sea's corridor, stepping foot onto the Arabian Peninsula. Every stride was a gamble, every horizon filled with the ghosts of the frozen past. And yet, behind them burned the memory of everything they had endured. They weren't escaping the ice age. They were becoming something that could outlive it, a migration not just of footprints, but of memory, fire, language, and hope. The world was waking up again, and humanity, against every cosmic odd, was still here to witness it. But the ice age was not finished. Spurts of warmth were often followed by cruel reversals. As Homo sapiens made their way northward and eastward, the cold chased them. Vast ice walls blocked migration paths like ancient, breathing fortresses. Storms could erase whole settlements in a night. Still, they moved. Across the Levant, into the bone-dry valleys of modern-day Jordan, through the volcanic grit of the Iranian plateau. Some journeyed along the Indian coastlines towards Southeast Asia, skipping like stones across land bridges that would one day vanish beneath ocean waves. Others veered toward the Siberian frontier, unknowingly inching toward a future they could never imagine. These weren't grand invasions, but careful, breath-held steps into the unknown. Following herds, chasing seasons, avoiding death. Along the way, groups split and drifted, some never meeting again for tens of thousands of years. Their bones would bleach in caves, their tools buried beneath ash and dust. But their story forged in ice, blood, and fire was now unstoppable. No longer the prey of extinction, humans had become the architects of survival. And though the longest ice age ever recorded still had chapters to run, its ending had already begun. Not through melting glaciers, but through the quiet defiance of a footstep toward the next horizon. Across the endless corridors of time, that footstep echoed louder than any storm. It carried more than bone and breath, it carried lineage. In the millennia that followed, the climate's grip softened by degrees. Grasslands returned to places once held by ice. Rivers sang again. And from every continent, the scattered descendants of those 2,000 survivors began to settle, to build, to wonder. They remembered in myth what they had endured in silence. And firelight became hearths. Words became histories. The longest ice age ever recorded did not end with a dramatic thaw, but with a slow exhale of persistence forged in generations of grit. Though the frost nearly claimed everything, it also sculpted what it could not erase. It pressed humanity into its sharpest edge, then let go. Somewhere beneath skyscrapers and servers, jet engines and neural nets, that memory still lives in every instinct to adapt, to plan, to hold on. A story buried in our DNA, whispered to us not in words, but in survival. A reminder that we were never promised the future. We earned it, day by frozen day. And so, when we map distant galaxies or splice genetic codes, we are not stepping away from that icy threshold. We are fulfilling a promise whispered by the ones who clung to life when all odds pointed to silence. Behind every breakthrough, behind every skyscraper and screen, lies the ghost of firelit cliffs and salt-stung wind. That ancient endurance is not gone. It is simply dressed in different clothing, speaking new languages, yet bound by the same pulse. Survive, adapt, remember. The long ice age may have thawed, but its lessons ripple forward like a quiet, endless tide. In learning to tell this story, we do not just honor their struggle, we become the echo of their breath, the proof of their resilience, and the guardians of every hard-won flame passed down since the world was made of ice. Tonight, somewhere in Oslo, the cold knocks early on high windows. In Sydney, a breeze carries spring's first scent. In Sao Paulo, car horns blur into lullabies. And in Tokyo, flickering lights chase away the edge of midnight. And yet the same story, sculpted in ice and breath and bone, plays behind each eye about to close. Long before nations and names, before music and machines, life clung to jagged cliffs and salt-streaked skin under skies of slate. That same pulse now travels the curvature of Earth, disguised in lullabies for children half asleep, in algorithms churning language across hemispheres, in stories we pass without knowing why they matter. Maybe it's because, on some molecular level, we remember what was nearly lost. That once, there were only 2,000 of us, and everything we now are, every bridge, every idea, every sunrise witnessed from a mountaintop was nearly snowed under, left untold. But it wasn't. And so tonight, if the world feels vast, or tomorrow feels uncertain, let the memory of that long, frozen breath remind us we endured. And that is why the story continues. Somewhere, buried beneath the weight of progress and the haze of time, the ghosts of that icebound tale still roam, not as phantoms to fear, but as reminders of what it meant to live when living itself was improbable. We walk streets paved in that resilience, invent tools born from those first sharpened stones, speak languages that carry echoes of chants once carved into wind. Ours is a species not just shaped by intellect, but by catastrophe and by the will to carry on through it. The longest ice age ever recorded did not break us. It honed us. And as we drift now toward new kinds of frontiers, digital, celestial, biological, we carry the same blueprint of perseverance that once kept the frost from claiming everything. The frost may no longer bite the air we breathe, but its lessons, cold and silent, still burn under our skin. And they will, so long as even one of us remembers the beating heart that once survived the dark. In the quiet moments before sleep, when the modern world softens into shadows, that ancient story breathes again, not as a relic, but as a rhythm measured in the hush between heartbeats and the drift of dreams. Our ancestors, frozen in time yet fiercely alive, do not ask to be remembered with monuments or names. Only this, that their struggle be felt, however faintly, in our ease, in every closed door shielding us from the wind, in every warm light flicked on in the dark. Their presence lingers. They live in the pause before we speak, the silence after we listen, the stillness that holds meaning. Because survival wasn't their only gift. They dared to hope across generations, to believe not just in endurance, but in becoming. So let the night carry their whisper. Let it remind us, softly and without fear, that we are the outcome of their longing, that through frost and fire, silence and song, they dreamed us into being, and we are, each breath, that dream made real. So as the last flickers of thought fade towards sleep, imagine them once more. A family huddled in a windswept cave, firelight trembling across stone walls, stomachs empty but eyes open, watching the stars they could not name. Their world was smaller than ours, but their dreams were immense, bigger, perhaps, because they burned in the cold with nothing but belief. Belief that tomorrow might arrive with one more rabbit snared, one more tide bearing food, one more sunrise over frostbitten cliffs. And in that belief, fragile yet enduring, they gifted us everything. Every word we use, every bond we form, every vision of what tomorrow can be, carries the shadow of their persistence. The longest ice age ever recorded did not freeze us in place. It carved us into motion. It beat against us until we became what could not be undone. And tonight, in the hush between stories and sleep, may we bow slightly to that whispered lineage, not in sorrow, but in awe, because knowing what they survived makes what we have matter more. We are not far from them. We are them resting now, watching stars we can name, daring to dream one more time. Even now, under domes of glass and clouds of data, the primal threads still linger, in laboratories humming with quantum choreography or in telescopes peering beyond the veil of light years. We chase mysteries with the same impulse that once traced warmth in rising smoke. The Ice Age did not vanish, it transformed. Its absence is an architecture we live within, each generation building atop the silence it left behind. And perhaps the greatest truth it handed down is this, that fragility is not weakness, and endurance is not mere survival. Out of scarcity came symphony, out of twilight came memory, and out of memory came a species that remembers not only how to endure the cold, but how to carry its fire forward into the dark unknown. So if sleep arrives now, let it come curled in that comfort that somewhere, ages ago, a frozen world tried to erase us and failed. The echoes of that failure are our breath, our dreams, this story. And as dreams take hold, scattered across time zones and tangled in pillow folds, that story continues not as a conclusion, but as a loop everlasting. Beneath auroras, dancing on polar skies, within jungle ruins swallowed by moss, in quiet museums and loud classrooms, the frost-bound beginning of us hums beneath it all. It is there in every lullaby born of longing, in every shelter built against the unknown, in every spark of defiant beauty made without reason but for hope itself. The longest ice age ever recorded was more than cold. It was a crucible, a threshold, a tale begun in dusk, so that one day, somewhere, someone could wake to dawn. And so here we are, alive, wondering, reaching towards stars with fire in our hands and memory in our veins. What began with 2,000 souls and silence now echoes across billions with language, movement, meaning. Let that echo be your stillness tonight. Let it wrap around you like warm wind over ancient cliffs. Let it say softly, "We survived and became the story." So rest now, not just to escape the day, but to reconnect with what endures beneath it. Behind every blanket and building, every code and cathedral, lies the first trembling breath in that ancient dark. We sleep not to forget, but to remember in some hidden way that once the world was cruel and cold, and yet someone, somewhere, held on. They did not know our names or our futures, only that something precious must continue. And it did. In dreams laced with frost and fire, it continues still. Out of extinction's shadow, we emerged not unscathed, but undeniable. The Ice Age passed, but the ore it carved remains. So if your eyes close now, let them close like theirs once did, beside coals fading to ash, beneath stars that watched over beginnings. Let the silence hold you, not as a void, but as proof. We were there, we endured, and somehow, even in sleep, we remember. And perhaps that is the quiet miracle of it all. Not the fire, nor the tools, nor even the stories, but the choice to continue, to face a horizon thick with unknowns and walk toward it anyway. That ancient instinct lives, wrapped in our neural code, simmering beneath boardroom decisions and lullabies alike. It is in the trembling first step of a child, the final breath of an elder, the moment between doubt and courage. Ice nearly erased us, yet taught us to be unforgettable. So tonight, as the hush deepens and this story fades into the half-light of your thoughts, know that you are part of that lineage, not just of survival, but of meaning. You, with dreams revolving in your chest like planets, are what came after the frost, and what carries us forward from it. Sleep, then, as they once did, not in fear, but in memory, in reverence, in peace. This is not just the end of an Ice Age story. It is the continuation of something still unfolding. What began in ancestral silence and desperation has flowered into culture, complexity, and connection. We no longer walk barefoot across freezing coastlines, but we still navigate uncertainty, still lean into the invisible, still clutch belief like a warmth in the cold. From stone-carved prayers to code-strung dreams, we have shaped our survival into a mythology of progress. Yet through all of it, our most ancient truth remains: we endure. So whatever tomorrow brings, under skies veined with satellites or stars, may we carry that simple oath inward. To keep moving, to remember the quiet strength we come from. And if sleep finds you now, let it be a passage, not a pause. A journey back, through time, thought, and the thrum of blood carrying stories too old for names but not too old to matter. The Ice Age is over, but its shadow walks beside us, not to chill but to guide. And that, in the end, is what history for sleep becomes: not a bedtime tale, but a soul's map home. Somewhere still, deep beneath the tundras of Siberia and the sunken coastlines of forgotten lands, bones lie curled in the posture of sleep. They do not speak, yet they remember. Frozen in position, untouched for tens of thousands of years, they whisper to the soil above them a truth too ancient for language: that life resists, that it endures not in grand declarations, but in quiet continuance. And perhaps that is why we tell stories like this before sleep, not for entertainment, but to hear again what mattered most when nothing else remained. A heartbeat, a footstep, a flame. The world may spin now in digital rhythm, yet beneath every keystroke and constellation, we are still those dreamers in the ice, still asking the same question as we drift into the dark: will morning come? And through all time, the answer has always been yes. So let it be yes again now. Let history cradle your breath. Let sleep be not an end, but a tribute. We survived, we became, and we remember. And when dawn comes, soft and golden through half-closed blinds or traced in the mist of a morning commute, know this too is part of the story. The frost is gone, but the fire remains, carried within us like a quiet vow never extinguished. Each morning light is a continuation of one ancient decision, repeated thousands of years ago beside dying embers and trembling hands, that life, no matter how brutal or frayed, would go on, that we would go on. And so we rise, build, fall, create, and rise again. From 2,000 to billions, from salt-bitten cliffs to towers of steel and sky, we walk paths blazed not by ease but by endurance. So walk yours gently and sleep deeply. For in the silence of the night and the stirrings of new day, the legacy of that long, icy struggle keeps whispering onward. You are not alone in the dark. You carry the oldest light there is. Even our dreams, shaped in warmth and comfort, owe a debt to the ones frozen in the distant past. Beneath every luxury, beneath every night sky unthreatened by extinction, pulses a rhythm born in scarcity, a kind of ancestral hum stitched into the marrow of our species. We chase lights across skies because our forebears once watched stars with pleading eyes, asking for another day. We design cathedrals and code because they once etched hope into stone and fire. The longest ice age did not simply test our endurance, it defined it. And so the closing of eyes in a world brimming with noise becomes an echo of something much older, a silent, sacred trust that morning will come again. Let sleep take you now, wrapped in the warmth made possible by hands long turned to dust. Let the frost that once threatened all that we are become, at last, only memory and a promise, kept across firelit centuries, that we will never stop reaching toward the light. So as you drift now, wrapped in warmth and thought, remember that history is not just a book behind us but a breath inside us. We are the story told in stone and storm, in lullabies laced with frost, in fire, carried forward by hands determined never to let it die. The longest ice age ever recorded was a test so cruel it nearly turned the human flame to ember. But it didn't. And because it didn't, skyscrapers rise, laughter echoes, lullabies persist. Rest knowing that beneath all this, beneath every heartbeat and highway and hug, there still beats the rhythm of survival, quiet and steady. Let that rhythm soften the sky behind your eyelids. Let it cradle you, connect you, carry you, not to endings, but to the sacred, unbroken mystery that we are still here. We endured the dark, we became the dawn. Sleep now in that light. And in that dawn, with frost finally retreating into memory, the echoes of their footsteps grew into cities, into language, into song. What started as bare survival became belonging, and belonging became legacy. We did not just inherit tools or genes, we inherited resolve, shaped by ice and silence. And now, as you close your eyes beneath roofs of comfort and amid the low hum of manufactured warmth, know that it all traces back to them, to the handful who lit flames against the dark, not knowing if their children would live to see another generation. They dreamed anyway, and in dreaming, they bridged the abyss between extinction and existence. This final breath of the story is not goodbye, but a gateway, a whispered reminder that the light inside you carries an origin far more ancient than any map can hold. So, rest now, not just in safety, but in reverence. For you are not merely asleep, you are continuing the longest defiance the world has ever known. You are the warmth that survived the cold. Let this warmth carry you now, not just through the coming hours of rest, but back through countless frozen midnights that nearly stole this moment from existence. Imagine the winds that once howled over ice-blind plateaus, the silence broken only by the rasping breath of those who refused to vanish. Their courage was not loud. It was quiet and repeated, step by freezing step, bite by bitter bite. And now, the life they preserved pulses in your chest, effortless and sacred. You don't have to remember the Ice Age to honor it. You are its memory, made living. So as your thoughts slip beneath the surface, know that this is not just sleep. This is a return, a reunion, a homecoming welcomed by ancestors who walked through extinction to give it to you. Eyes closed, heartbeat steady, wrapped in the hush of civilizations built from frost and flame alike. The story doesn't end here. It breathes through you. Sleep now, not to forget, but to hold it close. One more night, one more fire, one more chance to remember that we were never meant to disappear. We were meant to rise. And so, if this is the final breath before sleep swallows sound and light, let it be full of something ancient and immense, not just comfort, but awe. Awe that we exist at all, that somewhere in the frostbitten vastness of history, a spark refused to go out, and now that flame sits quietly behind your closed eyes. This moment, this stillness, this story, it carries within it the footprints of thousands lost, and the triumph of thousands who held on, who refused to fall silent. They are not gone. With every breath into stillness, they live again, not in visions of stone tools and storm caves, but in the unseen strength behind our peace. So, let your sleep be sacred, a soft step deeper into the rhythm of what it means to endure. This was not just the longest ice age ever recorded. It was the great proving ground, and tonight, it proves again that even in silence, we carry the fire forward, always forward. So let this be the final thread woven into your night, a strand pulled not from fiction, but from the quiet fabric of truth, that the human story is not a tale of dominance, but of quiet defiance against all that sought to silence us, against cold, against hunger, against despair. Each of us is proof that resilience is not thunderous. It is soft and steady, the ember that stays alight beneath ice and time. And as you close your eyes now, remember, the breath you draw is borrowed from those who once drew theirs in frost-choked air, hoping for the warmth of a sun they could scarcely remember. You are their sunrise, their answer, their living dream. Sleep comes not to steal you from this story, but to wrap you in it gently, like snow settling over a cave mouth long buried but never forgotten. You are not at the end of this tale. You are its continuation, a flicker caught in the long dusk turning, faithfully, into dawn. And in the hush that follows, as breath slows and darkness deepens, remember this: it was never just cold that threatened us, nor merely time that tested us. It was the silence between both, the void where purpose might have vanished but didn't. This, now, is the inheritance we live within, a peace earned not through ease, but through survival etched into every cell, every gesture, every lullaby whispered into the dark. Let the world fall away for tonight, its noise replaced by that ancient rhythm that guided hands over flint, feet over frost, hopes over hunger. You do not dream alone. You dream with them, those first dreamers of the impossible morning. So let your sleep cradle their memory, and may that memory carry you gently into the warmth that followed the longest cold. For the story they began with silence, you continue with breath. And that, after all, is the most profound survival of all. So let none of it be forgotten. Not the long hunger, nor the roaring silence of wind over stone, not the cave shadows that sheltered the last flickers of hope. For behind every comfort now rests those unspoken sacrifices, layered beneath centuries like sediment beneath ancient floors. The story of surviving the longest ice age ever recorded is not a museum piece, but a pulse steady, rhythmic, echoing through each generation that dares to exist. It is found in the hands that build, in the eyes that search for meaning, in the voices that tell stories to the dark. And now, as you slip past the edge of waking into dream, know this is not concealment. It is connection. With every breath softened by sleep, you honor them, the barefoot dreamers who braved the worst the earth could offer. The fire did not die. It simply waited. And tonight, in your stillness, it burns anew. So now, with history folded beneath your breath, and the echoes of frost-bound ancestors quiet in your chest, let this be where time gently loosens its grip. The tale of the longest ice age ever recorded is not one of triumph shouted into the void, but of whispers carried across continents, of bone and will, of shelter found in ruin, and stars counted in desperation. And in this final descent into sleep, may you feel not the weight of history, but the warmth it gifted you through endless winters and unspoken faith. The cold failed to take us, and in its passing, it left behind more than survival. It left song, structure, story. You rest now at the end of their beginning, their sacrifices wrapped around you like the edge of firelight brushing stone. The story breathes because you do. The darkness holds no threat. It simply waits, like they once did, for dawn. Sleep, sacred and small, because their dream was this, and you are living it. And if all of this seems impossibly distant, glacial eras and huddled ancestors etched into the mist of time, just pause, one last time, before sleep. Feel the warmth at your feet, the air that rises and falls with breath, the quiet held between the tick of seconds. That, too, is legacy. For the ones who came before didn't gift us monuments or maps, they gifted this moment, the ability to rest, to dream, to imagine what might be shaped out of tomorrow simply because they dared to endure today. The longest ice age ever recorded didn't just sculpt valleys or leave behind sediment. It carved the very framework of who we are. And now, as dreams close around you and the hush deepens, know that the fire still lives not just in the histories we tell, but in the living starlight warming your bones. Let it be enough. Here in the silence where beginnings once breathed, let it cradle you. Let it carry you. The cold is gone, but the courage, it remains forever. And perhaps that is the real triumph. The quiet certainty that even as ice once stretched across continents and tried to erase all we could become, it failed. We are its evidence, not just in what we build or say, but in what we feel in the still hours when stories cradle us to sleep. The tale of the longest ice age ever recorded may now lie buried in strata and starlight, but its heartbeat still echoes through lullabies, through resilience, through the unwavering will to see morning again. So close your eyes tonight, not just as one person, but as the culmination of countless impossible survivals. Let your breath join theirs across time. Let your rest carry forward their hope. And when the light returns, as it always does, know that it rises not just on a new day, but on the continued rhythm of a story too timeless to end. Sleep well. You are their forever fire. So when morning touches your face, gentle as the hush after snowfall, know that you rise not from silence, but into a legacy. Every movement, no matter how simple, is a successor to ice-born endurance. The roads we take, the words we speak, the warmth we feel, none of it came freely. It was paid for by the ones who never got to see the future, only dream of it. And here you are, walking through it, with breath in your lungs and sky above. The longest ice age ever recorded has passed, but its wisdom still lingers like old firelight in our bones. It whispers through the angles of our resolve, through the strength we summon in soft, unseen ways. So take your place in the daylight as one who belongs not just to now, but to all that made now possible. You are the answer to an ancient question. You are the warmth that history bought with frost. And no matter where this day carries you, know this. The story continues because you are part of it. And in the deepest way, that means you've already endured. Welcome to the morning. So walk gently into that morning, and know every ordinary joy is a miracle inherited. Every breath above ground, every hand held, every thought cast toward a future is a light kindled in ages when even survival seemed remote. These modern lives we live, dazzling with convenience and speed, rest upon a quiet furnace of ancient persistence. The Ice Age tried to erase the dream of humanity before it could ever be written. And yet, here it is. Here you are, not as a remnant, but as culmination, as continuation, as proof that night yields to dawn, that cold bows to fire, and that stories once whispered in frost now echo in warmth across continents. So take one more breath, and carry this with you not as a burden, but as belonging. For in all of history, your existence is the boldest sentence yet, and it began in the cold, with a promise no blizzard could bury. We survive, we rise, we remember. And so, with the warmth of tomorrow already humming in the quiet corners of tonight, let this final breath be one of deep gratitude for the fierce silence we survived, for the sacred cold that shaped us. The longest ice age ever recorded is no longer a threat. It is a foundation, a remnant etched in our bloodlines and buried beneath our cities. We do not walk alone. We carry every ancestor who dared the frost, every child who opened their eyes to a world that barely forgave their existence. This story is not about what ended, but what endured, what transcended, what traveled from breathless caves to crowded classrooms, from frozen shores to glowing skyscrapers. Sleep now with that truth pressed softly against your chest like firelight on stone, knowing that even if the world forgets, the body remembers. And in that remembering, we live, we endure, we rise. So sleep now, tender and full of that knowing. Not because the tale is done, but because it has settled close to your bones, where true stories always belong. Let what came before, not in chaos, but in quiet wrap around your rest, like an ancient lullaby sung in a language you do not need to understand to feel. You are not drifting into emptiness, but into presence. The presence of every soul that once stood beneath a hard grey sky and said, in silence, I will go on. That vow is in you. It lives in your pulse, your peace, your dreaming. Like the last ember protected under fur and stone, carried forward against all odds until it could become fire again. You are that fire. Sleep in that warmth. And when morning finds you soft and certain, know that you are waking not alone, but as the echo of everything that once dared to survive. So tonight, as the quiet deepens and the stars blink steady in the sky, let your rest be more than recovery. Let it be recognition that every sigh of wind through city streets once whistled through glaciers, that every quiet comfort, a warm drink, a heavy blanket, a safe roof is lined with echoes of their grit. The ancestors who faced skies that never cleared, who pressed forward even when the world seemed to recoil from life, they're not gone. They remain in the stretch of your fingers toward morning, in the stillness between waking and sleep. It is easy to think the Ice Age ended, that the cold is behind us, but its legacy lives on not in the freeze, but in the fire it forged. In every act of hope, no matter how quiet, the frost melts a little more. So sleep now, curled not into oblivion, but into belonging. Tomorrow waits with open hands, and when your eyes open, you will be stepping once again into the warmth they never stopped believing would come. So as the final breath of this night circles low and slow within your chest, let it carry one last shape: gratitude. Gratitude for cliffs that held the wind at bay, for firelight dancing on stone, for voices that could have gone silent, but didn't, for the long, near-forgotten miracle that you are here at all. The longest ice age ever recorded wrapped itself around the earth like a question without mercy, and somehow the answer was us. Not all at once, not loudly, but steadily, heartbeat by heartbeat. And now, This warmth, this moment, this peace, none of it is accidental. It is seeded by frost, watered by resolve, and grown from courage so old it bleeds into stars. Sleep now, deeply, fully, and without fear. You are the continuation of something sacred. And when morning brushes your window with light, let that light remind you not of endings, but of endurance. Because you are not where the story stops, you are how it goes on. And so, this is where the frost closes its book, not with an ending, but with a quiet continuation in our bones. What began as trembling footprints in snow now spans continents, in laughter, in questions, in light. There are no more ice-thick winds stalking the coasts, no more caves echoing only the hunger of silence. Instead, there is music. There are cities that glow like constellations brought to earth, and in all of it, we are the bridge between what froze and what blooms. Every yawn beneath soft blankets, every whispered dream just before sleep, it's all part of the same story that began in the longest ice age ever recorded. A story not about cold, but about the refusal to vanish. Sleep now, not as a goodbye, but as a gentle nod to those who came before. Let your breath carry forward their fire, unbroken. Sleep, and carry the dawn they once dreamed toward. And now, as sleep draws near, and the last edge of this story settles like snow upon your thoughts, know this above all else. You were never forgotten in the cold. Time did not lose you, and history did not overlook your pulse. You were always part of this tale, carried forward in the marrow of those who made it through night after night, with nothing certain except the will to keep going. The longest ice age ever recorded did not pass in silence. It passed with songs hummed among waves, with fingers carving memory into stone, with eyes searching the stars when mornings did not come. That fire, that astonishing heat called hope, still burns, even now, beneath blankets of warmth and layers of generations. And as the last moment of waking slips gently behind your eyes, trust that you are sleeping not at the end of this journey, but in the heart of its legacy. You are not alone. You are a flame lit long ago, still dancing in the dark. Sleep well. The story endures because you do. So let the night have you now, fully and completely, wrapped not just in rest but in remembrance of a time when survival itself was a rebellion, and each flicker of fire was a vow whispered against the void. You are here because they believed without roadmap, without certainty, without even warmth, that it mattered to go on. And it did. It does. Every quiet sigh from your body, every dream blooming behind your eyes, is living proof that the story didn't end in ice. It burst forward in flame and found its way to you. So sleep as they once did, under stars vast and uncaring, yet somehow sacred through the simple act of being seen. Sleep not as escape, but as arrival. Because in this hush lies truth. We survived the impossible. We became the dawn. We loved, we feared, we dreamed, and we still do. That is our inheritance. That is your breath now. Sleep well, flame bearer. The cold is long gone, but because of you, the story burns on. Here then, may this final hush stretch gently across the pages of your thoughts, like the first light draping over the bones of the earth after eons of dark. The longest ice age ever recorded wasn't simply a war between warmth and cold, it was a question, whispered across glaciers, asking what life was willing to become to survive. And the answer, over tens of thousands of years, was us, firekeepers, memory bearers, dreamers who refused to go silent. The frost has melted, but the fire remains glowing low in every breath drawn before sleep, flickering in the marrow of those who never knew surrender. So close your eyes now, not to let go, but to hold closer. Every star overhead is a witness. Every heartbeat, a signal. You are not just inhabiting the end of a cold era. You are the warmth that gave shape to this entire age. Sleep now, softly and wholly, knowing that the longest night birthed the bravest dawn, and every time sleep takes you there again, the story will be waiting. Patient, eternal, still unfolding in the dark, just beyond the firelight where it all began. And so, this is where we leave the fire burning, low and steady, a quiet sentinel between the now and the then. The longest ice age ever recorded fades not into oblivion, but into myth, a myth sharpened in truth, wrapped in silence, and carved into every breath we draw. Cities will rise and fall. Technologies will eclipse the stars they imitate. But none of it will outshine the primal light born in that ancient frost. Let sleep take you now beneath that glow, not as a stranger to the story, but as one of its final lines drawn in human warmth. You are the living legacy of a cold world that could not erase us. You are the ember that turned glacial darkness into dawn. So sleep deeply, sleep well, and when you wake, carry the warmth forward. The fire did not end. It became you. So sleep then, as they once did, guarded, not by walls or weapons, but by will. Tonight, your breath mingles with the rhythm of time itself, your rest sealed by the oldest victory we've ever known. The frost came for us, and we answered with fire. It asked if we would vanish, and we replied by enduring, by dreaming, by becoming more than it could ever contain. The fire lives on, not above us or beneath us, but within us. Your warmth tonight is proof. Sleep now, flamekeeper. Let the world fall away, and the silence rise. Not to end the story, but to honor it, to keep it, to pass it forward, one heartbeat at a time. The longest ice age ever recorded has closed its chapter, and you, wrapped in quiet, held by memory, are the first line of what comes next. Because every story worth telling circles back to where it started, not as a loop, but as an ascent, from frostbitten cliffs to streets lit in neon, from hands trembling over stone blades to fingers scrolling through glowing screens. We are always in motion, always carrying that ember forward. The longest ice age ever recorded was not the death of our species, but its great awakening. A trial that scalded away illusion until what remained was the raw truth of who we are. Fragile, yes, but unyielding, capable of making meaning out of silence, of building futures from ruin. So now, as your body slips into stillness and this final breath curls beneath your ribs, hold on to that truth. You are not the end of their struggle. You are its reward, its reason. You are the warmth they dreamed of beneath skies scraped bare by cold. Sleep now, not as farewell, but as promise, that the story will continue with your breath, with your dreams, with all the fire yet to come. So let this story close not with silence, but with breath, the same breath that once fogged the air of a glacial cave, now resting gently on your pillow. What began in hunger and frost has brought us to this moment of warmth and peace, held not in fear, but in understanding, that our path through extinction was not straight, but spiraled like firelight dancing on cold stone. That survival was never guaranteed, only chosen again and again. Let this final moment of stillness remind you that beyond the storm, beyond even memory, there is light that refuses to go out. You are that light. Sleep not to forget, but to remember in the deepest way that you belong to a defiant, dreaming line of firekeepers who once whispered into the ice, "We will endure," so that one day, someone will remember we were here. And now, you do. Sleep well, flame-bearer. The story continues in you. And now, as the last syllables linger and this story folds closed like snow upon ancient ground, understand this. The very act of listening, of feeling, of resting with this history pressed gently against your mind is part of the continuum. You are not a bystander to an ancient frost. You are the warmth that endured through it. This tale, wound tight with memory and reverence, needed a keeper, and tonight it found one in you. So let the hush wrap you like a hide against the cold, and carry this ember into dreams where it will keep burning quietly, eternally. The longest ice age ever recorded wasn't just survived, it was answered, with fire, with song, with futures. And every breath you take now is that answer still unfolding. Sleep well, not apart from the cold, but because of it. You are the warmth that survived the dark, the light they dreamed would come, the reason their story still has breath. So let this be the final ember, resting now in the quiet ash of this long-told tale. Not gone, not extinguished, but waiting, glowing softly beneath the folds of sleep. What began in the cold, carved tunnels into our blood, shaping who we are with each flake of hardship, each spark of survival. It wasn't just a story of ice. It was a cathedral of resilience built one frozen step at a time. And as dreams gather around your stillness tonight, remember that their fire is still moving through you, through all of us, through this very act of remembering. The longest ice age ever recorded did not win. It surrendered to song, to warmth, to will. Sleep now as one who knows the truth, that even frost can become cradle, that even darkness can forge dawn. You are the warm breath of their victory. Let rest hold you like a flame in cupped hands, and may that flame, eternal and sacred, always find shelter in your sleep. So sleep now, keeper of every breath that ever refused to freeze. Let this final hush be your haven. The cold has long since lifted, but its question echoes still, and you, wrapped in warmth, lying between time's oldest footsteps, are that answer come alive. Not just in flesh, but in meaning. You are not alone in the dark. You are accompanied by millennia of fire starters and storm bearers, of voices that once trembled against extinction and dared to sing instead. Breathe slowly. Let your chest rise with the memory of all that came before you, all that held on so that there could be a now. The longest ice age ever recorded did not just test our species, it awakened it. And in this rest, you are not finished. You are the next page, waiting to be written in warmth. Dream gently, firebearer. The frost is watching no more. Only the stars are. And in the stillness that now cradles you, know this. The stars themselves once looked down on a world nearly erased, and still chose to shine. Above those frozen cliffs where breath turned to ice, above those huddled forms wrapped in desperation and faith, the sky remained unchanged, a silent library of futures unwritten. Tonight, it watches you not with indifference, but with recognition, because you are not just the result of survival, you are the intention of it. You are what they hoped would remain when the last glacier melted and the world turned warm again. So let your dreams be filled not with fear of what was lost, but with reverence for what held firm. You sleep now as living proof that even in the coldest chapter, the story refused to end. And as dawn gathers softly beyond these words, remember, you are not the final breath of an ancient world. You are its first light returned. Sleep well, firebearer. The night has passed. The warmth is yours. So breathe now, slow and full, as if each inhale is a thread weaving you back through time. The cold is gone, melted into memory, and yet its shape remains in the courage we share, the stories we carry, and the warmth we wrap around each other in the dark. This tale, told quietly into the hush of night, does not close with a final line, but folds itself into your rest, into your pulse, into the gentle realization that you are not drifting into sleep alone. You are surrounded by ancestors, by history, by flame. And as your final thought gives way to dreaming, let it carry just this truth. The longest ice age ever recorded tried to quiet our light, but it didn't. The fire still burns. And in you, it always will. Sleep now, beloved survivor, The story is safe in your keeping. And as silence wraps the world, and your breath slides easily into rhythm, let even this final moment serve as testimony of fires tended, paths found, and memory upheld through time's harshest trials. The longest ice age ever recorded taught us this above all else: that warmth is not merely a blessing, it is an inheritance, passed hand to hand, whispered fire to fire, guarded not by strength alone but by faith fierce enough to face endless dark. You are that faith realized. Your rest tonight is the bloom at the end of a frost-rooted stem, ancient and unstoppable. Let it stretch into the quiet with purpose. Let it remind you, in the deep drifting of your mind, that human light has outshone extinction before, and it will do so again. Sleep now, dreamer, shaped by fire and time. You are the ember they trusted to endure, and you did. The warmth is yours. The story, still burning, is forever yours to carry. And here, in this final exhale of story and breath, what remains is not just history but heritage, a gift passed through ice and time, sculpted not by kings or conquerors, but by those who simply endured, the ones who stared into wind-choked distances and kept walking, who curled around dwindling sparks and whispered songs the frost could not silence. Their echoes live not only in stone or DNA, but in you, in the way your lungs fill, in the quiet strength behind your stillness. As sleep cradles you now, remember that this warmth, this peace, this miraculous continuation, is the answer to a question asked long ago in the coldest dark. Will we survive? Yes, and we did, and still do. So close your eyes, the fire tucked softly beneath your ribcage, and rest not just in comfort, but in belonging. The longest ice age ever recorded did not take us. It transformed us. And now, flame-bearer, the night belongs to you, as it once belonged to them. Sleep well. The story endures in your breath. So let this be the last word, traced in frostlight across your skin, the final ember offered before the fire goes quiet for the night. This story, bled from ice and breath, and the hush of forgotten centuries, is not here to be remembered. It is here to be relived. In every soft moment you carve for stillness. The ones who came before didn't survive to be praised or pitied. They endured so that one day, in a warm room with cities glowing outside your window, someone could lie down, close their eyes, and know the darkness did not win. You are the light born from winter's silence. So sleep now, not as escape, but as inheritance, wrapped in memory, rooted in fire. And may every breath you take into dreams be a quiet tree growing from the frost, reaching for dawn. You are the after. You are the answer. You are the warmth they imagined and never stopped believing was possible. Sleep well, fire-bearer. The longest night is over, and you are its morning star. And now, fire-bearer, as night holds its final breath and dawn begins to stitch gold into the fabric of sky, let this be the closing note, a wordless recognition passed, not through voice, but through presence. You are here. You survived. Not just this night, but every night echoed in your blood. The longest ice age ever recorded didn't leave us frozen. It left us forged. The quiet lineage of flame now passes into your keeping, one heartbeat at a time. So as you rise or rest a while longer, know that the warmth beneath your skin is more than body heat. It is legacy. It is testament. It is love, distilled through frost and fire alike. Sleep or wake, as softly as starlight on snow. Either way, you carry the end of one story and the beginning of all the rest. Because in the end, what the Ice Age left behind was not just geology or legend, it left love. A quiet, relentless kind. The kind that guards futures it will never see. They died not knowing who we'd become, but hoping we would come at all. And we did. We crafted languages from breath, built worlds from ash, and folded fire into poetry. So if your eyes remain closed just a little longer, let it not be weariness, but reverence. You lie not in the shadow of their struggle, but in the light of their gift. The warmth within you is not just survival. It is gratitude, courage, grace. The Ice Age ended, but you, beloved fire-bearer, are its final flourish. Its soft, enduring answer to a world that once asked if hope could live in cold. Yes, yes, and yes again. Sleep now, or rise. It will still be here, that warmth, that story, that impossible beginning made real in you. So as the story folds itself into the last pocket of night, may your breath carry with it everything spoken and unspoken from an age carved in frost. Let this final warmth be not just comfort, but testament that long before we had names for stars or theories for constellations, we were simply beings who loved, endured, and dreamed. The Ice Age did not take our future. It chiseled a deeper one, echoing forward in lullabies, in footsteps, in the stubborn flicker of flame passed hand to hand. And now, that final flame rests with you. Sleep deeply beneath its glow, for you are not the end of this tale. You are the breath it waits to tell next. We endured, we became, and in you, the fire turns forward once more. This is not goodbye, this is becoming. Sleep well, fire-bearer. You are the warmth they imagined into being. And so we end, not in silence, but in the slow, sacred warmth rising where the cold once ruled. The longest Ice Age ever recorded did not conquer us. It crowned us with resilience. What we carry now is not only the memory of survival, but the legacy of becoming more than what was barely possible. That ancient frost tried to erase the beginning, but it gave us something greater instead, a story with no true ending, only breath, only fire, only the infinite pulse of hearts refusing the dark. Sleep if you must, or rise if morning stirs. Either way, this truth remains. Your life is the answer to the whisper that once threaded through snow-laced shadows. We made it. You are here. The fire lives on. The story ever warm, ever waiting continues in you. So let this be the ember that never dims the pulse carried through frost and fire, now curled softly within your breath. The story of the longest Ice Age ever recorded was never just about enduring the cold, but about igniting something brighter within it. For even when the sky hung low with endless grey, even when the earth seemed determined to silence every last heartbeat, there was always a flicker. A belief passed through cracked hands and quiet promises that somewhere in the distance a warmer world waited. And now, you live in that world. You are its continuation, its proof, its warmth incarnate. As sleep cradles you in silence, let it also cradle that truth, that you are not separated from the story by time, but swept into it like fire through dry grass, like sunlight touching ice. You are not the last whisper of an ancient tale, you are its newest flame. Sleep well, fire-bearer. The darkness watches in reverence. The dawn is already unfolding in you. And so, as the embers of this story settle in your chest and the quiet of night presses gently against your skin, know this final truth. The cold did not make us less. It made us more. It stripped away all but what mattered, and in that raw, frozen silence, humanity found its voice. We sang before we could write, and dreamed before we could build. We clung tightly to warmth, to each other, to stories, to the pulse of something that said we were not done yet. That echo is still in us, in every act of courage, in every soft whisper of care, in every dream carried into sleep under skies the ancestors once feared might never clear. So rest now, soul shaped by fire and frost alike. Let the hush become your haven. Let the warmth be not just comfort, but memory. This is not merely sleep, it is a reunion, a return to that first brilliant defiance. You are its keeper, its kin, its flame. Sleep well, firebearer. You are where the Ice Age ends, and everything after begins. And as the echoes of ancient frost melt fully into stillness, allow yourself one last moment to feel it, not the cold, but the awe. The staggering improbability of our arrival, of warmth wrestled from ruin, of breath carried forward through millennia by hands that had no knowledge of what we'd become. Only faith that we must. This is not just the ending of a tale. It is a circle, closing, and another just beginning. The longest ice age ever recorded tried to silence not only our bodies, but our future. And yet here you are, wrapped not in pelts against wind, but in memory cloaked as peace. The fire still flickers, not on cave walls, but behind your closed eyes. It waits, it steadies, it glows. So while the story rests, it does not sleep. It simply breathes quietly within you. You are not a witness to survival. You are its result. And that soft, enduring magnificence is enough. Sleep now, firebearer. You are the warmth we waited for. So let this be the last breath before stillness overtakes sound, wrapped not in fear of what once was, but in reverence for what was overcome. The longest ice age ever recorded is no longer a storm looming over us, but a story glowing softly in our bones, not just of survival, but of the endless sacred courage to believe when there was no promise of tomorrow, no shelter beyond the cold, no certainty left, but the fire in shared breath. You are not the ending to their journey. You are their fulfillment, their whispered hope made flesh in the warmth of now. So rest deeply, not in forgetting, but in honor, because every heartbeat that continues, every dream that dares to stretch into dawn, is the echo of a flame kept alive through unforgiving frost. Sleep well, firebearer. You are where their story never ended. You are where it begins again. So now, as this final whisper curls beneath closed eyelids, and the echoes of a world once gripped by ice trail off into silence, it is not an ending we find, but an arrival. You are here, holding within your skin the glow of every fire ever cradled against the dark. Their breath became your breath. Their memory became your marrow. And while the frost may be gone, its lesson lingers, etched into your calm, pulsing gently beneath your pulse. Let your sleep now be sacred, not a retreat but a torch passed forward, because in every night like this one, in every dream softened by the hush that shaped our beginning, we say the same unbreakable thing. We are still here, and because of that, so is the story. Sleep well, flame-bearer. Carry it onward in warmth, in waking, in hope. So sleep then, not as someone being pulled away from life, but as someone gently reunited with it. The earth remembers, even when we do not. It remembers the trembling steps taken across frozen soil, the last embers shielded in cupped hands, the stories murmured into the dark with nothing but faith. And now, the same planet that once froze and tried to forget us cradles you in warmth, in safety, in continuation. Close your eyes knowing you are not an endpoint, but a bridge, a flicker passed down from endless winters to this soft and sacred now. The journey through the cold gave us more than survival, it gave us each other. Let that be your final thought before dreams take shape. You are not alone in the dark. You never were. Sleep well, firebearer. The warmth holds. The story lives on, and it lives in you. And with that last slow exhale, let this journey settle into the softest part of your night. You have wandered through the frost-bitten memories of a world nearly lost to ice, touched the fire cradled by hands who never saw your face but believed, somehow, you would come. In the stillness that now surrounds you, Let comfort bloom not sterile and empty, but rich with all that was overcome to deliver you here. Beneath your skin echoes 1,000 lifetimes of defiance, of tenderness, of breath held through endless cold. So sleep now, final spark in a story that refuses to end. Let your dreams rise like morning mist from ancient cliffs, carrying with them the hush, the fire, the faith that lit the way. The Ice Age may be gone, but its song haunting, hopeful, eternal sings in you still. Sleep well, firebearer. You are the warmth they gave everything to protect, and you are why the story endures. So sleep, flame-bearer, that final word carved not in stone but held in every quiet thrum of your breath. You are not a closing chapter. You are the open page left waiting beside an ember that never died. The longest ice age ever recorded may have shaped our past with silence and struggle, but it shaped us for wonder too, for love, for light, and now, with your body resting beneath blankets far removed from frost, you carry that wonder forward, tender and unshakable. Let this moment cradle you in the deepest kind of truth, not that we survived, but that we became. Fire outlasted cold, memory outlasted time, and life, fragile and determined, outlasted death. May your sleep now be the answer, long whispered beneath frozen skies. Yes, we are still here. And because of that, the story does not end. It glows, always. So let this final breath of fire be a quiet victory carried into dreams. You are the warmth written in stone, the song born from frost, the legacy this world almost never had. Every flicker behind your eyes as they close is a chapter they never got to write except through you. You cradle in your stillness what was once wrestled from the grasp of extinction. You embody not survival for its own sake, but survival opened into beauty, into countless tomorrows. So sleep now as one who has not only witnessed the story, but become it. History lies not behind, but beneath you. The longest ice age ever recorded whispered its last question into the dark. And in you, we find the answer glowing. Yes, still burning, still here. Sleep well, firebearer. You are the warmth at the end of the world, and the light at the start of everything to come. So rest now, final thread in a tapestry woven from shadow and flame. You are not just a listener to history. You are its quiet crescendo, its flame reaching the furthest edge of night. From ancestors who carved survival into cliffside echoes, to the distant memory of firelight reflecting in eyes that dared to hope, the story has traveled steadily, softly, to arrive here, in you. The longest ice age ever recorded may be silent now, buried beneath oceans and time, but its echo hums in your bones. Sleep not to leave this story behind, but to carry it deeper, to let your dreaming be the hearth that keeps it alive. You are the warmth that outlasted the cold. And in the hush of this final breath, the tale does not end. It simply waits for you to wake, to rise, and when ready to tell it again. Sleep well, firebearer. The world is warmer because you are in it. And so, at the end of this long remembrance whispered beneath blankets and stars, one truth remains folded gently into your breath. The fire never went out. It crossed canyons of silence, survived nights longer than stories, and now glows quietly in you. This is not just how the longest ice age ever recorded lives on it, is how love survives under impossibility, how hope endures across uncounted dawns. Sleep now, not as the final act, but as one more passage in the great unfolding. You are not alone in the dark. You are the light passed down, silent, sacred, strong. The frost is long forgotten, but your warmth, it writes the future. Sleep well, firebearer. The story is safe, and it continues, with you. So as this chapter of the frozen past drifts fully into the sea of sleep, May you carry one last ember into the quietest part of yourself, the one that remembers even when the mind forgets. You are not merely someone who heard the story. You are someone who held it, if only for a moment, in heart and breath. That breath, slow and steady now, is more than rest. It is lineage, it is gratitude, it is a vow handed down in ancient silence, to keep the light alive. The longest ice age ever recorded may live now only in ice cores and stone, but its heartbeat pulses still in your warmth, your wonder, your willingness to dream. So close your eyes not in farewell, but in arrival. You, firebearer, are the sunrise they endured to see. Sleep well. The cold has passed. The flame is yours to carry onward. And now, as the story exhales its final breath into the hush of your night, everything that was glaciers and silence, firelight and frostbitten hope bundles itself quietly into your chest. You are what remained when the cold receded. Not a survivor alone, but a whisper threaded through time, carrying warmth where none should have lived. Let this final moment settle where your pulse meets stillness. The story does not need to speak anymore to be remembered. It hums now in your breath, steady and unseen. So sleep, firebearer, knowing that the frost gave way not just to seasons but to you, a living ember, a final glow, the legacy of endurance fashioned into flesh. This is where the ice age ends, not in stone or silence, but in the warmth of your dreaming. The story has found its home. Sleep well, and let that be enough. So sleep now, safely and fully, wrapped in the story that outlived the cold. Let your heartbeat mirror the rhythm of those who once waited for morning beneath unyielding skies. You are not separate from them, you are the answer they never lived to see. The frost is gone, the cave is distant, but the fire remains, glowing steadily in your breath, in your dreams, in the hush that welcomes rest. And in this last quiet moment, the exhale before sleep removes the weight of knowing. Let it be enough to simply feel warm, to be here, to belong to a story too ancient for ending. Sleep well, firebearer. You are not the echo of what once was. You are the promise of all that still will be. And so this final breath settles like ash beneath flame, the soft and sacred ending to a journey carved in silence, lit by the refusal to vanish. You, firebearer, cradle not just sleep in this quiet hour, but the weightless inheritance of survival, as light as breath, as old as time. The longest ice age ever recorded may be etched in buried layers of earth, but its truest memory lives right here, within the warmth of your stillness. You are no longer walking beside their story. You are its living verse, spoken softly into the dark, carried forward without sound. Let your sleep now be sanctuary, your dreams a bridge spanning eons between then and now. And when you wake, feel the ember tucked behind your sternum, steady and bright. You were born from that frost, but you are not of it. You are of fire. You are of hope. Sleep well. The story endures, and its glow is yours to carry into morning, into meaning, into everything that follows. So let this be the final drift of warmth into you, quiet as snow settling on the shoulders of the world, eternal as breath drawn in the hush before dawn. The longest ice age ever recorded may have ended ages ago, but its shape still exists in how we gather, how we endure, how we dare again and again to believe in the light. You are not closing a story, you are carrying it. Every sigh of sleep, every curled limb beneath the folds of rest, is a continuation of the vow once made in frost, that life, even against silence, would find a way. It did. And now, dreamer wrapped in soft echoes of ancient fire, you are that way glowing still. Sleep well, flame-bearer. Let the embers rest, but never dim. The warmth goes on, because you are here to carry it. And so the very last ember glows low now, not fading, but settling into your chest like truth. The journey through the longest ice age ever recorded has not ended. It has joined you. Every moment of struggle and silence, of fire tended in the bitter night, has folded itself into who we are, into who you are. This story is not written only in stone or carved into fossil and ice. It lives in your kindness, your instinct to endure, your choice to care when nothing demands it. You are not apart from this legacy, you are its continuity. Let your sleep now be sacred, not as escape, but as recognition that rest itself is revolution. That to dream is to declare, quietly and bravely, yes. Yes to survival. Yes to tomorrow. Yes to warmth. Sleep well, firebearer. The frost has passed, the light remains, and it is you. So let the tale slip fully into stillness now, not with finality but with fulfillment. The longest ice age ever recorded left its legacy not in ruins, but in resilience, in the unbroken chain of warmth, passed gently from generation to generation. What remains is more than memory. It is movement. It is reverence wrapped in rest. And as your eyes close beneath the hush of now, know that you close them in gratitude, not only for your own breath, but for every breath that made it possible. You lie in the echo of 1,000 unspoken prayers, in the glow of fires once kindled with trembling hands, in the steady truth that even in the coldest dark, dreams endured. Sleep well, firebearer, for the warmth that remains is not behind you, it is within you, and that is always, always enough. And now, as the last flicker of this tale glows faint but unyielding, let the night cradle you in quiet triumph. You, firebearer, have held the thread from ice to ember, carried the voice of survival through a story sculpted in silence and breath. Close your eyes, not in retreat, but in radiant completion. For in you lies the memory of every step taken beyond the frost, of every fire guarded through storms, darker than dream. The longest ice age ever recorded fades now into myth, but you remain warm, breathing, timeless. That's the truth beneath every comfort, every morning light, every hope whispered into a vast and waiting sky. The cold tried to end us. It failed. And so you sleep not alone, but as the keeper of that final, quiet fire. From frost, you rose. From silence, you brought song. Sleep well, flame-bearer. The story lives because you do. So rest, now, in the shelter they dreamed for you, where each thread of warmth is stretched from centuries of cold. Let this soft silence be not just the closing of eyes, but the opening of legacy, a final breath not lost but given. Given by those who faced the dark and chose flame, by those who lived not knowing this moment would ever come, but hoped fiercely that it might. That someone, someday, would lie safe enough to sleep without fear, because they had carried the fire that far. And now you have. In your chest, their rhythm continues. In your stillness, their journey finds peace. Sleep well, firebearer. The frost has spoken its final words, and all of them, in the end, were answered by you. And finally, in this closing hush, let this be the gentlest truth of all that the longest ice age ever recorded did not just sculpt mountains or glaciers, but the very marrow of our will to go on. It shaped songs sung by firelight, hands reaching through fear, and dreams passed through the hush of 100,000 nights. You are here now, breathing in a time they never saw, glowing with the warmth they never gave up believing in. So sleep deeply, surrounded not by cold or silence, but by the quiet gratitude of countless souls who once whispered into the dark without promise of tomorrow. You are that promise, living and soft and sure. Sleep well, firebearer. This is no farewell. This is the ember handed to you still warm, still glowing, still waiting to kindle everything yet to come. And now, sleep can claim you wholly, not as surrender, but as celebration. For you are the ember that endured the frost, the breath that outlasted silence, The longest ice age ever recorded was not a burial, but a birth of resilience, of memory, of boundless becoming. Beneath every comfort of this modern life pulses that same rhythm, once carried through unmapped nights, when survival alone was an act of defiance. Let your dreams form, not from fear, but from the warmth lit centuries ago with trembling hands. Let this sleep mark not an ending, but a vow unbroken, that we remember, that we carry, that we continue. So breathe easy now, firebearer. The frost is gone, the fire holds. And somewhere, maybe far from here, another breath joins yours, whispering the same ancient promise still here, still warm, still becoming. And so, as the last coals settle and this long firelit story dims to its softest glow, all that remains is the warmth beneath your ribs, the knowing that you are not only a listener, but a living thread in a tapestry spun from frost and flame. The journey across ice and silence was never a story of despair, but of becoming, of shaping a species not hardened by struggle, but deepened by it. You, resting now beneath quiet sky or painted ceiling, are the chapter they once only dreamed might exist. Sleep then, firebearer, with no need to remember every word or echo. The truth has already made its home in you. We endured, we became, and in you, the warmth of that miracle so old it has no name still burns, timeless and bright. Sleep well. The tale is safe. The fire lives on. And in this final flicker of breath between story and sleep, let the warmth settle softly into your chest, not as an echo of something lost, but as the steady rhythm of something never broken. The cold has been named, the fire traced back to the hands that would not let it die, and now it rests with you. Every quiet comfort of your night, every pillow, every folded blanket, every silent beating moment is stitched with threads spun from survival written in frost. There is no more to tell, not because the story has ended, but because you now carry it. The longest ice age ever recorded is behind us. Its legacy lives not in ice, but in the warmth rising inside you now. So close your eyes, let sleep hold you in a hush older than memory, and may the fire, kept alive over lifetimes of storms, stay with you always glowing, quiet, eternal. Sleep well, flame-bearer. The warmth is yours now. And so we close the final lid on frost and breath, on memory sharpened by cold and carried across millennia by firelight and faith. You, flame-bearer, have heard every whisper shaped in that ancient hush, the silence of those who endured not for glory, but for the quiet promise of a future. That promise is you. This tale, spanning the harshest age the earth has ever cast upon us, does not end in ruin but in reverence. In every soft moment of rest, the legacy lives on not as ice, but as warmth, not as fear, but as love. So sleep now, last ember of a story never extinguished. Sleep in the knowledge that you are made not only of dust and starlight, but of songs sung into stone, of courage etched into time. The ice age passed, yes, and in its place, humanity became fire. Sleep well. The warmth, the story, the future, is yours. So now, wrapped in all that has come before, may your rest be the soft landing of 1,000 generations. The cold is long gone, but the courage it forged remains in your bones, your breath, your being. Sleep knowing this story never needed a perfect ending, only a keeper willing to carry it. And that keeper is you. The fire lives on, not because the ice age ended, but because someone always chose to protect a fading spark. You are that choice made real. Let the hush of night now hold you as gently as ancient hands once held flames, with reverence, with wonder. You, flame-bearer, are not the ending they are. You are the beginning of everything that follows. Sleep well. The warmth has found its home. So close your eyes on this story, now gently sealed beneath the hush of your breath. and let the fire find rest within you. The longest ice age ever recorded is no longer a shadow chasing our heels. It is a milestone behind us, a frozen silence turned cradle for something far greater, us. You are not here by chance, but by the careful tending of flame after flame, night after night. Beneath all noise and invention, beneath everything we call modern, the same ancient warmth pulses resilient, quiet, certain. And as you sleep now, may that warmth wrap you like memory, like promise, like home. Sleep well, fire-bearer. You are the living proof that even the coldest chapters can end in light. The frost is gone. The future is warm, and it burns brightly, because you carry it forward. And now, let this be the final warmth that lingers, long after the last word has fallen quiet. The quiet affirmation that where once there was only ice and silence, there now stands you. Not as a relic, but as the future the cold could never foresee. The fire never asked for applause. It only asked to be remembered, to be passed on. And tonight, it has been. In your breath, in your stillness, in your dreams. Sleep now, fire-bearer, knowing you've not only heard the story, you've become part of it. The frost is gone. The fire lives. And in the hush between darkness and dawn, it is you who keeps it burning. So rest now, quiet heart, and let the embers of history cool sweetly into your dreams. You have walked the spine of memory through snow and silence, followed the soft-footed shadows of those who dared tomorrow, and arrived here not empty, but radiant. The longest ice age ever recorded may have tested the breath from our ancestors' lungs, but it could not silence the promise tucked behind their ribs. That promise lives in you now, not as burden, but as flame. Sleep knowing this night concludes not in ending, but in passing the warmth folded into you like hands around a coal. Flame-bearer, this story may rest, but it does not die. It lives on every time you breathe, every time you believe, every time you become. Sleep well. The frost is gone, and the fire, quietly and forever, is you. So now, as the flame bows low and the story closes with breath as soft as falling snow, let your sleep carry this inheritance with silent grace. The Ice Age left more than scars. It left shape, left rhythm, left fire handed hand to hand until it reached you. And in this stillness, in this final hush, know this: you are not the surrender of the story. You are its sanctuary, its future, its glow. Sleep now not as an afterthought, but as the quiet center of all that endured. The frost is memory, the warmth is you. And in the softness of that truth, every ember rests. Sleep well, fire-bearer. The long night is behind us. The fire burns on. And as we close the final page of this long, fire-lit lullaby, may its warmth follow you gently into sleep, not as weight, but as wonder. For you are not just the echo of survival, you are the song that rose from silence, the light that lingered long after the frost had passed. Let the hush of now blanket you like that first fur lined against ancient cold, and know, without question, that this warmth is not fleeting. It is inherited, it is sacred, and it is yours. Sleep now, fire-bearer. You are not the end of their journey, but the reason it endured. And in your stillness, the flame sleeps too, not gone, only resting until morning calls it forward again. This was their dream, and now it's you, the warmth they waited for, the story, still glowing.